You're listening to Alcoholics Alive, where recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous share their experience on how they live AA as a way of life. None of our participants get paid or speak for AA. Here are your hosts, Shank and Wayne. Welcome to Alcoholics Alive, Season 10. Shank, I'm really excited about what we're doing this season. Some of our listeners may not be too excited about it, but I think they will be if they'll listen. So, hey, if you've been a dedicated listener, we really appreciate you sticking with us. This season, we're going to be doing a few things a little different. We're going to have a little session called Upon Awakening. Then we're going to go into some agenda items for our General Service Conference and see if they actually fulfill our primary purpose of carrying the message to an alcoholic. And one of the items on that proposed agenda items is to rewrite Living Sober. So we suspect they're going to probably agree to do that. So we want to go through some of the stuff in Living Sober, and we're going to actually use some of the readings from Living Sober as our shrapnel.
Can't wait.
If you're not interested in general service stuff, you still should stay tuned for the Living Sober shrapnel. So, Shank, what's first?
All right. So, Season 10, Episode 1. This episode is the Agenda Committee.
Okay.
So there are several committees at the General Service Committee, General Service Board. Which one?
Conference,
the General Service Conference. There are many committees, and the first one is the Agenda Committee. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. Jerry's going to give us some background information in a minute. Upon awakening, we're going to take we're going to take some time to pray and meditate over something from the real text of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the big book, the 4th edition, 2001. And so our reading today is from the foreword to the 1st edition. And it says, "We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book." So to me, as an opener for Season 10, this is just a reminder that Alcoholics Anonymous is a simple program. And I can show other people precisely how I have recovered. You know, me personally, I'm not recovering for the rest of my life. I believe that I have recovered, and as long as I do what I'm asked to do in the book and in my life, I'm able to stay sober.
Yeah, I think those words are just as accurate and powerful today as they were when the book was written and published in 1939. So, I mean, it tells us that we do recover, that we do get better, that we just seemingly have a hopeless state of mind and body. And that the book and the steps and the instructions in the book help us to recover from that. And that's the main purpose of the book. The interesting thing about that is it's helped several million people recover.
And I've said this a lot recently, that I am so glad that when I arrived to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was treated just as another alcoholic. No one really cared that I was going to prison, that I committed crimes, that I had a job, that I was going to lose a job, that I didn't know what was going to happen. No one cared. They didn't care I had been in treatment for 30 days. They didn't ask me what I learned in treatment.
Yep.
You know, they didn't tell me I needed a special book because I wasn't educated. They just said, hey, if you want to get and stay sober, hang out with us. You need to get a sponsor. You need to get a home group. Here are all the things that you need to do that we've done. And I did those things.
Mm-hmm. And it was more one alcoholic helping another.
Yes, these
Yeah,
men and women showed me what to do. They didn't say, show up and make the coffee or show up and put the chairs out. They were there. They said, here is how we do this. Let me talk to you a little bit about my experience.
yeah. There are no new tips and tricks on
No.
staying sober. There's the 12 steps as they're outlined in the book, Alcoholics Anonymous. Reminder that Alcoholics Anonymous is a book. And the purpose of the book is to show me and you how to recover from a hopeless state of mind and body.
So upon awakening, everyone remember, AA is simple. One alcoholic talking to another alcoholic. You can recover. And the book will tell you precisely how we have recovered.
Yep, precisely. No more information needed. All right, well, what's our topic today? Well, you kind of already
Okay.
talked about it.
Yeah, so the agenda committee. Okay, so I would like it if you could give us some background on pre-conferences, conferences, PAIs, agenda items. What are we talking about here?
All right, so this season we're going to be talking about the proposed agenda items for the 75th General Service Conference. That's going to
So
be at
that's
the
a
end of
PAI,
PAI is a
proposed
proposed agenda item.
agenda. Okay.
So let's say me and you wanted to change the word steel girder in the big book to steel bra.
Yep.
We could just as an example, or let's say
Brawl.
maybe we wanted to write, we wanted a pamphlet for white trailer trash,
Yes.
AA members or alcoholics, I mean. We could submit a proposed agenda item directly to our delegate. We could take it up through our group, through the districts to the area, or we could actually write GSO directly or send it to the conference desk at GSO or to a trustee. There's lots of ways to do a proposed agenda item. Anyone can do it. So this year, those have been submitted, and there's an agenda that has come out for the conference. So the delegates and the staff and the trustees will all get together at the end of April, early May, to discuss all those items in a committee. So I think there's 13 committees, and we're going to go through each of those committees' proposed agenda items. And this will be our voice. We're going to go through those and we're going to see what we think about them. If you're listening and you've not seen the agenda for the 75th General Service Conference, we can send it to you. You can easily get it by Googling it online. I mean, there's lots of areas and districts that have published it. It's available. And I think what we're hoping to accomplish is maybe help you to be a little more informed on what's going on in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we really think that a lot of this stuff is really, I guess the question would be, as we go through it, does it really fulfill the primary purpose of helping an alcoholic? And I don't know. We'll see if AA is on track or if any of this stuff is actually necessary or if it's needed for me and you to go out to our home groups and to other meetings and to treatment centers and correctional facilities in our community to actually help alcoholics. So we're going to take each committee, one episode per committee. I think the 12th episode, we're going to combine the archives and the international committee. I think that's right. So
In North Carolina, we have pre-conferences, but not every area, which is a state, not every area has pre-conferences.
yeah, a lot of areas will hold what they call a pre-conference. Not all of them do it. but this is it's a it's a gathering where the delegate will hold what's called a pre-conference. So they'll ask AA members to come and they'll go through some of the agenda items so that the delegate can get more informed on what his or her area thinks about some of those agenda items. So we just attended a pre-conference yesterday, or this will drop on Tuesday, but on Saturday for our area, and our delegate had, I think it was 10 or 11 items that she was interested in that she wanted more feedback on. So we attended that pre-conference. And it's an unofficial meeting. It's really not part of the so-called service structure, I guess you will. It's just a kind of an additional meeting where the delegate tries to get information from AA members. It's not binding or...
So if you don't have a pre-conference, you can just reach out to your delegate.
Correct. So if there's no pre-conference, you can reach out to your DCM, or at this point, probably best to go directly to your delegate. If you have feedback or suggestions or concerns or comments on any of these items, you should definitely make your voice known to your delegate before they go to the conference.
And so that
Anyone
can
can
be
do that.
From your GSR, from your home group, just from you personally, from
Yes.
a group of people you know that discuss it in AA.
Yes.
Okay.
All the above. Yep. And they say AA is upside down triangle and that everybody has a voice. It's true. You do have a voice. But delegates will be quick to tell you that they are informed and not instructed. And what that means is that when they get to conference, they can vote whatever they think is best for Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole. They're not necessarily voting their area's voice. So there's debate on what's right there, but that's the situation.
All right. That's the sitch. So we're going to be talking about the Agenda Committee this episode.
Whoa. Riveting.
And the Agenda Committee for the 75th General Service Conference is tasked with reviewing and shaping the themes, topics, structure, and improvement processes for future conferences. The committee also evaluates communication methods, feedback mechanisms, and efficiency proposals for the conference week.
Okay.
So there are several items on here. I'm just going to quickly read through them.
Go through some of these, but we don't.
Item A is the 2026 conference theme. Okay, there are several notable proposals: unity in action, changing our manner of communication without changing the AA message, AA through the ages. Okay. Item B, presentation discussion topics for 2026. Topics like spiritual accountability, embracing change, online group dynamics, AA unity, distinguishing gossip from facts, historical topic trends. Okay, item C, workshop topics for 2026. Spiritual accountability, embracing change. Okay. Oh, no. Group autonomy, social media pitfalls, trusted servant selection, technology in AA. Okay. Item D, conference evaluation review. Reviewed feedback from the 2024 conference to improve future structure and interpersonal dynamics. Evaluation summaries were shared with the improvements subcommittee. Item E, conference improvement progress. A progress report highlighted updates on implementation of evaluation feedback, including proposed structural and procedural changes. Item F, quarterly communication feedback. Delegate chair's feedback on quarterly communications was assessed to identify enhancements in transparency and engagement. Item G, printing and distributing
Distribution
of 2025 conference inventory summary. One of us can do it. Two rednecks, one will get it. The
Yeah.
committee discussed the plan to print and distribute a comprehensive summary of the conference inventory for wide accessibility. And item H, progress on conference inventory, ongoing efforts to assess and refine the conference's internal processes and effectiveness were reviewed. So,
Wow.
that brings us to item I, which is one that I would like to discuss here.
Yeah. Well, hold on before you go on to I. So listen to all that, and I mean, it's almost like the conference has turned into like something that it was never intended to be. I
Seems
mean,
very organized.
yeah, I mean, it probably needs to be organized, but I mean, so I mean, I would think that business sessions, and actually going through, spending more time on agenda items that actually come from the fellowship would be more important than some of that stuff that they're focused on. You know, their workshops and their working
Well,
sessions
so
and
here's the thing,
what.
like the conference theme, discussion topics for 26, workshop topics for 26. It's like, can you not just have a running list of all of those? Every
Yes.
conference adds a few more on, and you're
So,
just bip going through the list. Like,
yes.
I understand that they want it all to like tie together and make sense, but when you're doing this type of service, like it's not all going to tie together all the time, and it's not all going to be perfectly wrapped up with a bow. And quite frankly, I don't think AA members care that if the workshop and discussion topics match with the conference theme.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I say all that. There's got to be a way to simplify that and to skinny it down to where the purpose of the conference is to discuss the agenda items that came from the fellowship and not all this other stuff. I mean, there's got to be some efficiencies and something that they can do to make it more efficient to where they're dealing with business and getting out, not all this other stuff. So it's just like Alcoholics Anonymous in our own recovery. I mean, we learn to take action toward production and spirituality and things like that. We don't waste time on other stuff. But anyway, what's the next agenda item?
Okay, item I, which is area service highlights proposal. Okay.
Okay.
So, this proposal stems from PAIs 20 and 32, reviewed during the November 2024 Trustees General Service Conference Committee meeting. Delegates raised concerns during the 2024 conference opening caucus about time management. Emphasis was placed on transitioning to an edited version of area highlights in the final conference report to allow more time for vital agenda discussions.
Oh, how about that?
So,
So they're already working on it.
correct, and this references PAI's proposed agenda items 20 and 32. So, PAI 20 says, consider suspending oral presentations of all area service highlights and print highlights in the final report to allow for additional time on the agenda.
So before you move on, so they basically spend a little over 3 hours on these highlights. Mm-hmm. And just in general, each delegate gets about 2 minutes to do these oral highlights of their area. And there's 92, 93 delegates. And so it takes over 3 hours of the week to do that. So go ahead.
PAI 32 is the background to 20. So PAI 32 says, to end the practice of oral area highlights in the yearly General Service Conference, instead, area highlights should be documented in the conference manual and final conference report. The time saved from this change shall be reallocated to committee work sharing sessions or report backs.
Okay.
So
So if you're listening, so somebody is concerned. Basically, what I said earlier, they're concerned that they're not spending their time productively, that they need more time to talk about the actual agenda items and less time talking about the fluff and the froth of what's going on in their areas. And so they want to stop that and spend those 3 hours talking about more important items. And you could argue, why would you want to know? Why would it help you to know what New Mexico did? Do you really need to know how many groups
Here
are
you
in
go.
Oregon?
Does
Go ahead.
reading area highlights at the microphone offer real value, or does it compete with higher impact committee discussions?
Oh, well, Shank, I'm going to let you talk through your talking points here. I'm talking all over top of you. So that's a good question. I think it would compete against with higher committee discussions, wouldn't you? So it should probably do away
So
with it.
here's my honest question. Um, they're all honest questions, but why does this need to be a PAI?
Good question.
Is this not something that someone who has some letters behind their name in AA, who
So,
has a title?
so that's a very good question. If we went back through all the advisory actions from 1950, you'll
Hmm.
find that there's probably an advisory action that instituted this, that
Okay.
implemented this as part of the conference agenda. And
Hmm.
so in AA's way of thinking, if it was an advisory action, it's kind of binding and you got to follow it unless you reverse it. So that's probably why, and we could go back and find that if it was an advisory action. But to your point, this is part of our problem with AA and kind of our structure now, is you would think that's an administrative decision, right?
Yes.
Whoever's in charge of the agenda, if it's the agenda committee or if there's a chair of the agenda committee, they should have the autonomy to make a decision that says, hey, our agenda is cluttered. Our agenda has too much stuff in it. Let's skinny it down, or let's do away with this and spend more time in committee or spend more time, discussing the items that came up from the fellowship. So to your point, this should be an administrative decision.
Well, and
It,
here's why this was interesting to
so,
me. Part of the reason is because I have a position at our home group, and this exact thing was happening in our business meetings. And so I reached
mhm.
out to all of our committee chairs and said, submit a written report. I'll send it out. If you have anything that you need to say that like is very prudent or very time sensitive, then you can say that in the business meeting. Otherwise, we have other things to discuss.
Right.
It just seems very simple. I don't think anyone was upset about that, or if they were, it's just,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's that simple. That's a good parallel. Bringing it down to how you did it at the group. I mean, it's the same thing there. They somebody should have the autonomy and the flexibility to make that decision without it going. And so instead, now it's like going all the way down to the groups. People are talking about it, and it's just.
So let me ask you another question. Okay, this is a proposed agenda item, right? So how does it become an agenda item?
That's a good question. So the agenda committee, there's actually an agenda committee made up of delegates, staff, and trustees that will discuss this. And if they agree that it needs to go, that it's relevant and it needs to be debated by the full conference, then it'll pass through the committee. It'll get voted on in the committee and make it to the final agenda
So
for
in
the
order
conference.
for this
So
to
the
change,
mhm.
it has to be approved, sent to the conference votes on it, and then maybe next year they don't go up to
Yeah,
the microphone.
yeah. So it's got to be approved by the agenda committee to go to the full conference. It'll go to the full conference. Then all delegates, staff, and trustees, I don't know, it's 120 to 130 people, depending on who's there, will debate it or discuss it. And then if it gets approved by the full conference, then it gets implemented. The trustees are tasked with implementing it and staff. Yeah. Whereas we could, right, the agenda committee chair could have easily just made the decision. I
Okay,
mean,
so could this could an unintentional consequence of doing this be that it reduces visibility or the sense of celebration of areas' service accomplishments? Like they don't get up there and say, "Here's what we do in our state, in our area."
again, it would stop that, but I would ask, how helpful is that to carrying our primary purpose? I mean, do you really need to know what's going on? Well, how many groups are in Michigan?
No.
As an example, do you really need to know that in Area 51 in North Carolina that we like aliens?
Well,
No. I mean, how does that help
I
carry the
mean, speak for
message?
yourself.
Right. You get my
Yes, I
point
know.
there.
I just
So,
think so. I went to a corrections conference recently that we have in our state, and some of the feedback was, oh, hey, we didn't do the thing where everyone from different states comes up and talks about what's going on. And it's just interesting because no one ever really liked that.
no,
Like it
no, they
is
did not.
interesting to hear, I guess, but unless you have like I don't know,
It's
unless you have like very structured things. How many prisons are there in your state? How many are AA meetings? How many what? It's like people will get off into the weeds of things that are not even like
yeah,
relevant.
it burns time too.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's just not real helpful. I mean, it's nice to know what's going on in places, but you can get that through fellowship in between meetings
Yes.
and at dinner and at
Hey, I'm
lunch.
interested in all of that. Please
Yeah.
believe, like, I want to know. I do. I want to know what's
Yes.
going on. I want to know
Yeah.
what you're doing in your state and
Yeah.
corrections, what works, what doesn't. But, like, I
They.
personally reach out to those people. I
Yep.
make relationships with them.
Yep. Yeah. So a suggestion on this would be maybe get some video of every delegate saying something about their area or get them to write in some stuff and then do like a slideshow or a video on breaks and in between
Hmm.
sessions
Yep.
or something like that. But to burn over 3 hours,
What's interesting to me how we're willing to implement technology only in certain areas. Like,
yeah,
if it takes away from someone feeling like they're doing something by going up to a microphone, yeah,
yeah, yeah. I would think looking at the agenda and all the stuff that's been sent in that that's way more important than area highlights. Now, again, I guess in full disclosure, neither one of us have been to a conference.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure there's some power in the delegate getting up and highlighting their area. I can understand that. But given the tightness of the agenda and all the stuff on it, it just seems to me that it'd be a no-brainer. Do away with it.
Written report.
Yep.
Gain back some time
Yep. Yeah.
and move
Again,
on.
what does it do to carry the message? Does it fulfill the primary purpose? No. No, it doesn't help an
Well,
alcoholic.
and then it kind of takes me back. So it's like, okay, well, what's an alternative that could make the delegates feel recognized and like we're grateful for their time. We're grateful for them serving. But it's kind of like, too, well, most positions in AA are thankless
Yep.
positions and
Yeah.
they're inconvenient.
Hmm.
And a lot of people do not appreciate how much time, energy, and all of that goes into it, but there are a lot of us that do. And so,
Yep.
like, go and do the job and we'll support you. But when it's a bunch of silly stuff that we don't get background information on like we want, and it's just giving a presentation about what's going on in the state, I know it's not just that, but those are the things that are historically reported back
Yeah.
that I hear
Yep.
about where they went to
We,
dinner, and I'm interested in that, but not from the podium. Like I want to know about the business of Alcoholics Anonymous.
that's right. And that's why we send a delegate, right? We send the delegate to do the business of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in this case, it's to go through that 700 and something page agenda item,
Hmm.
proposed agenda items, and to do the business of AA, not some of this other stuff. And well, the next one you're getting ready to go through really kind of, there's more to talk about. What's the next one?
Item J, Harmony and Effectiveness Session Pilot.
Let's hear this one.
All right. This initiative was recommended by the trustees nominating committee following the work of a subcommittee formed in July 2024 to address grievances about GSB actions. So that's the General Service Board, right?
Yep.
The idea was to create a structured, transparent, and time-bound forum during the conference for trusted servants to express and explore concerns. Approved by the GSB in February 2025, this session is intended to be a pilot project to explore more effective communication during conference week.
So I wonder if the reason that they want to do away with the delegate reports is so they can have time for the harmony and effectiveness session.
Well, it would seem like you have to have some more time.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch that, they want to have what they call harmony and effectiveness session for the delegates and the people at the conference. So that'd be staff and trustees. What's some of the background on that, the talking points?
Okay, so this was a proposal. The General Service Board inventory was held in January 2024. And during the inventory and in the subsequent board discussions, including a communications workshop, it has been noted that one unmet need is a dedicated time for discussion amongst all conference members regarding matters of importance, communication needs, and any areas of concern. Concurrently, a subcommittee of the Trustees Nominating Committee, TNC, proposed creating dedicated time and space to address any areas of concern, foster harmony and effectiveness, and hear any grievances or censure motions if raised. In the absence of dedicated time and space for this time of discussion, the methods used are often written letters to the General Service Boards or proposals for censure. These options remain, of course, but many have expressed that this has not proven satisfactory in fostering effective dialogue about important matters. There have been ongoing comments that there is insufficient time in the General Service Conference to discuss important matters, and that while the agenda process is effective for committee topics, it doesn't allow discussion of grievances or emerging matters. Some have expressed the What's on Your Mind sharing session does not meet this need, yet fulfills an important purpose for general sharing. It has also been noted that the time for questions and discussions on the board reports is insufficient. So when it would be scheduled at the General Service Conference for at least 1 hour after the board reports, finance reports, and conference committee meetings have occurred. The format would be discussion regarding any grievances, opportunities, ideas, or barriers to the conference achieving the needed harmony and effectiveness to fulfill our responsibilities to those we serve. The session chair is either the GM of GSO or the chair of the General Service Board, and it follows how the conference operates. Note, this session may also serve as an additional venue to address any proposed censure.
Sounds like not always rosy and fruity pebbles at the
Any formal
conference in
actions
office.
taken during the harmony and effectiveness session will be included in the final conference report. And this session is to occur for 3 years at the 76th, 77th, and 78th General Service Conferences. During this session at the 78th General Service Conference, there will be discussion and a decision regarding if this is proven to be an effective way to enhance communication and foster harmony and effectiveness, any recommended changes, and if the General Service Conference wishes for this to continue.
First thought is if all of our trusted servants were following the existing traditions and existing concepts, we would not need this. Yep. So it kind of follows our own government and our own kind of what's going on in society is that you got divisions mostly because of personal opinions and personal experiences, and people can't lay aside what they actually, what they believe for what's best for the most alcoholics. And I've actually, I've talked to several folks throughout the country that have been to conference in the last 6, 7, 8 years, delegates and some staff and trustee. And it's funny. I mean, everybody's got like different opinions, but this comes about because folks don't follow traditions and concepts, and they let their own, their own personal desires and their own religious or political beliefs kind of infiltrate what they're doing. And the reality is that there's some people that don't feel heard, and we'll get to it in some other agenda items about like the history behind how one of them came up. But this is done because of some decisions made in the past. I mean, it could even go back to where we tried to buy the manuscript. It goes back to the preamble being changed from men and women to people. The 12 and 12 had some rewrites. There were some bad financial decisions made, and they tried to censor the board and other people, and that stuff gets killed in committee, or the board doesn't listen, and so they think they need to do a harmony and effectiveness session for people to be heard. I don't know. Again, going back to your Upon Awakening reading, our job is to help other people recover from alcoholism through the book. If we could just stick to that, I know there's more to recovery than that, but that's the baseline of what we do. And to send people to New York to argue over, whether they're going to change a comma in a pamphlet or just nonsense to me.
Well, okay, so something else that is interesting that came up, we were made aware of it yesterday, but it was from April 3rd of this year that I think maybe ties into harmony and effectiveness.
It does. If you're going to say what I think you're going to say,
is this letter from the General Service Board, from the chair, Scott H. and alcoholic, and I will read this. It is from the General Service Board of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's from April 3rd. Good afternoon, fellow conference members. I want to let you know that Kevin Pryor, Class A trustee and our General Service Board treasurer, has decided to rotate after this General Service Conference and not allow his name to move forward on the slate for the board next year. Kevin has given me the following statement to answer some of the questions that will naturally arise regarding his decision to discontinue his service on the General Service Board. And this is what that says. I'm honored to have had the last 4 years to serve as a trusted servant and friend of AA. We have accomplished some great work, and many of the relationships I've been able to build will last a lifetime. Sadly, the consequences of my courageous efforts to address board leadership issues 2 years ago, and my insistence that the will of the group conscience make our financial decisions, not me individually, have made service over the last 2 years extremely challenging. Attacks on my character and professional competence have been continuous in both public and private settings. It is very disheartening that many past trusted servants chose to use their influence to use these issues to divide rather than unify the fellowship. In addition, the added pressure placed on the GSB as a result of the above sometimes adversely affected interactions amongst General Service Board members. For these reasons, I've decided that further service in this capacity is no longer tenable. What I will take with me is a heart filled with gratitude for every day I had the privilege to serve. I'm forever grateful to you and my loving God. Please be respectful of Kevin and his decision and allow him some space.
Well, there you have it. I commend him for his honesty, and I actually commend the chair for actually sending that out. Mm-hmm. Being a little transparent about it, even though
it's just interesting, though. Like,
yes,
it doesn't really say. It says a lot, I guess, if you're involved at that quote level.
Right.
Now, to me, it says some things, like it's probably more transparent than, I don't know, a lot of stuff in the last 5 years, certainly. And quite frankly, I don't know what that guy's position or side or any of that is. So I don't know if I would agree or disagree. Yeah. But I do think that this kind of plays into whether or not it's something I would agree or disagree with with this harmony and effectiveness sessions and, you know.
Yeah. I would think a harmony and effectiveness session is probably a waste of time. I guess they got a 3-year pilot for it, though. Again, follow traditions and concepts. They're pretty clear. I mean,
Well,
lay
you know,
aside.
what I learned in my home group and what I hear a lot of people repeat is when I got sober and started going to business meetings. Now, I didn't necessarily see this in my first year of sobriety because I was locked up. And it was not a shock to me when I did see it. But in the business meetings, there may be people who disagreed and then left the business meeting and were still friendly and went out for ice cream and had a good time. Or if I disagreed, I certainly wasn't going to speak up at that time. I mean, it's probably surprising now, but I was not going to then. And I would ask my sponsor or other old timers, like, hey, why did you vote like that? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Or I don't understand, or I don't agree, or, so like I hear people say that they were able to leave a business meeting, not getting their way, not seeing that the group conscience spoke and that they were wrong, but that doesn't seem to happen in higher service, if you will.
Right. It's a good point.
It's put it on the agenda again next year, put it on the next year, put it on the next year until I get my way.
Yep. That's what's happened. Just like government. It's like Congress.
It's very weird.
But even that concept, though, of like trusting the group conscience and people like disagreeing and debating and then being friends, even that concept at the home group level is like disappearing.
Well, I know.
And that's why we've got so many different groups now, because everybody's like starting their own groups that have all like-minded people, and there's no unity in that at all. We're here to help alcoholics.
That's right.
We're not here to argue ideology or political views, and people will claim they're not doing that, but they are.
Yes.
And so it's kind of sad to me that guy had to resign. It's sad to me that we've gotten to the point to where we think we got to have a harmony and effectiveness for grown adults.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break. Get over yourselves and do the business of Alcoholics Anonymous. Find some agenda items that actually help an alcoholic directly. And let's make some decisions. Now we're going to spend 3 years in freaking damn kumbaya sessions. Give me a damn break, people.
Well, it's
Come
just interesting
on.
too because, I'm not saying that things can't be revisited in the future, but for every single year, certain things to be brought up. It's just like, I don't know, in my opinion, which my experience is within the home group and in some area service, but it's like, okay, well, we're going to have an inventory every 2 years, so maybe we address it then.
Yeah.
Maybe we see like where the group conscience is then.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like people getting weirdly upset about things that, in my opinion, don't matter.
Right. Most of them don't. Really don't. So, harmony and effectiveness session pilot, trash it. I'm serious.
Okay, but what happens if this doesn't get approved? Like, I cannot imagine a scenario where they're like, we don't want harmony and effectiveness. Just the name itself, to me, I'm like, there's no way that they could trash this. Like, they are moving forward with
it's
it.
moving forward. This one's going forward for sure.
Because if you just called it like
Yeah.
something
The other thing
else, I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting about this one is I think the board gave it the green light already. So maybe, I'm sure they're going to do it, but it's just dumb.
Well, and then the question is this actually creating like a space for division
For
rather
sure it
than
is.
unity?
Good
So
point.
like you're having this where it's a dedicated time and space for people to give you their grievances.
Yeah. That's exactly what it's going to turn into. And the person that thinks that all we need is the big book, he's not going to change his mind in the session.
Mm-hmm.
The person that thinks we need to change all the terms, we need to go to alcohol use disorder and they, thems, and all that. I mean, that guy's not going to change his opinion based on a harmony and effectiveness session.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I read through that whole agenda item, and after leaving the pre-conference, I'm more convinced that at some point there's going to be two AAs in the United States. It's just
We have a friend in Australia, and didn't she mention that it got really dicey
yeah,
in Australia?
yes, yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of groups that don't participate. As a matter of fact, the majority of groups don't participate in general service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could say it's already happened. I mean, you
Well, but
typically have about
isn't that the
30%.
like there's always, and we're going to get into it later on in other episodes, but like there are always all these initiatives to like get all these groups, get them active, and people need to send more money, and we need this and we need that, and it's like, well, can you not understand that maybe that's the group conscience speaking? Like they don't participate, they don't send money, like that
Shank,
is their
yes.
voice.
Yes. Shank, yes. There's
It's
many of
not
us have been.
because we're all uneducated dummies.
That's
No,
right.
we know what you're doing and we don't agree with it. Like, why is
Yeah.
that not an okay response?
It is a response, and it's a valid response. And so many of us have been saying that for decades now. The groups actually speak by what they don't do. So if you've got 70% of the groups not participating in general service, what does that tell you?
Hmm.
Right? If you've only got 3% of your fellowship subscribing to the grapevine, what does that tell you? That 97% of them don't want it, but yet you're still wasting money for it.
Hmm.
I'm curious to know if our treasurer was in favor of transferring reserve fund money to the grapevine or not in favor of it. I don't. I
We
mean,
should ask.
yeah. We may ask. It's interesting. So, hey, if you're out there and these topics weren't appealing to you, I can assure you in future episodes we've got some good ones that you're gonna want to listen to.
That's
But
right.
talk to your delegate. Talk to folks at GSO if you've got a voice that you want to be heard on some of these items. And you know what? Maybe you want to do harmony and effectiveness at your group next week.
Maybe you may want to add that in.
What's next, Shank?
All right, so we have living sober shrapnel
I love it.
because in a future episode we will probably talk about how there's a PAI of updating the Living Sober booklet. Please don't forget that it is a booklet. So this is a segment of lore, myth, and sayings as written in the booklet Living Sober from the 55th printing, 2024.
All right. What's the first one?
Our first one comes, I mean, we're just like straight in. It's about that title. So this is even before any of the numbered pages. And it is Thick Tongues. So that's some living sober shrapnel. And here's what it says.
Thick
Many
tongues.
of us never staggered, fell, or got thick tongues. Many others were never disorderly, never missed a day at work, never had automobile accidents, and certainly were never hospitalized nor jailed for drunkenness.
Oh
So
my
we have
goodness.
thick tongues.
That's funny. Well, here's what I would say: if you never staggered, fell, or got a thick tongue, or you were never disorderly, or you never missed a day at work, or you didn't have an automobile accident, you may not be an alcoholic.
You may be a hard drinker. Well, I thought like staggering, falling, and getting a thick tongue was hereditary.
Yes,
I thought it was a passed down trait, you know?
it might be for us. Thick tongue. Now I know about the thick tongue.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. You know, you start drinking a little bit, get that thick tongue, start talking funny. It happened to both of my parents.
Oh, yep.
God, they would take a few drinks, and man, that thick tongue would come quick. And,
Ooh, it was like peanut butter on the top of your mouth, you know?
yeah,
Slow and thick.
and then they throw in a few pills, and
Oh,
that's
whew.
get even worse. Many of us staggered, fell, or got thick tongues. Do all alcoholics that drink get a thick tongue? I don't think it happens to everybody, does it?
I guess not. I do not know.
So, have you ever seen this come up in a meeting?
No.
Talk to anybody about a thick tongue?
No. But I understand. As soon as I read that, I knew what it meant.
Yeah. Many of us never staggered, fell, or got thick tongues. We're never hospitalized or jailed for drunkenness.
So what season was it where we did the translations?
Yes.
What would a current day thick tongue translation be?
Well, let's see what.
Fell or got a thick tongue.
Let's see what chat says. Oh, it's trying. Slurred speech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slurred speech.
Oh, they're not quite the same, but I could see that being a
it's not
term
the same.
today.
Articulation difficulty. Articulation.
I'm having a little articulation difficulty.
When it is referred to drinking. Hold on one second. I got another one for you here.
Articulation difficulty.
Slurred speech. Yeah, impaired articulation. Speech distortion. Alcohol-induced dysphagia. Yeah, it's saying that the most common one would be slurred speech.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, speech distortion.
So do you think that in the update they should keep thick tongues?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think we should keep it.
Yeah, I think we should keep it. I like that one.
Yeah, let's keep it. What's
Okay,
next?
so the next one, also before the numbered pages, why not drinking? This is, it says, and we repeat. Somewhat to our surprise, staying sober turns out not to be the grim, wet blanket experience we had expected. So we have the grim, wet blanket experience.
Grim wet blanket experience. Somewhat to our surprise, staying sober turns out not to be the grim, wet blanket experience we had expected. And you're saying all this is in the actual front before you actually get to the content of the book?
It is.
Isn't that funny? All right.
Listen, we could just read the Living Sober book, honestly, for 10 minutes at the end of every podcast, and it
is
comedy.
It's hilarious book. It's awful in some of the instructions, although some of them I have followed, but I didn't get them from the Living Sober book. Well, being sober is not a grim wet blanket experience. It has sometimes been, but typically not. I don't know about this one.
I don't know. Grim wet blanket experience.
Yeah, I think we need a plain language version for that. I'm thinking we scrap that one. They shouldn't include that.
It's out. Well, also it just doesn't, staying sober turns out not to be. Turns out not to be?
Yeah, that's not proper.
Turns out not to be.
That's not proper plain language.
Every day is a day. Okay.
Every day is a day.
So our third Living Sober shrapnel, this actually comes from one of the numbered pages. It's at page 2. And this is the 12 steps offered as a program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. So here's what it says.
All right.
Many of us found that the sooner we started work on the 12 steps offered as a program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the better.
Yes!
Others of us felt the need to postpone this until we had been sober a little while.
No!
Oh my God. It started off strong.
It was so strong, and then they just had to...
They messed it up.
They did. Yep.
Many of us found the sooner we started the 12 steps in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the better. Well, I agree with that. And so that's in Living Sober.
It is, and I will say it references working the steps or the program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous several times in those first several pages.
Huh. Okay. Others of us felt the need to postpone this until we had been sober a little while.
Which is why those people don't ever get sober for a little while, because they just don't work the steps and they drink again.
You know what's funny about that? It's just not been my experience. And I hate saying stuff sometimes about people that I've helped or how many people I've tried to help, but I've tried to help a lot of people over the years, and I've never had anybody want to postpone working the steps. It's just never happened.
Yep.
I mean, anyone who's somewhat serious or trying to stay sober, they will immediately start doing some form of book work or step work. I mean, it's not, and I've not found it helpful for anybody to wait.
Well, and people think that
Ever.
it's mean. Now, several of my friends, if you will, that have started doing more service, I think have realized where I'm coming from on this. But there will be women who will be like, oh, I just can't do that yet. I'm working on my trauma. I'm working on my this, and I'm in this program and that program and da-da-da, which is all fine, okay? Like, I was in a 30-day treatment center. I did inpatient, outpatient. I had to do intense therapy for stuff. I was required by the state of North Carolina to do a lot of things.
Yep.
And I was still working the steps offered as a program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And truthfully, did some of that other stuff help me? It probably did.
Probably.
But that's just not, I don't do the somatic breathing exercises every day that I learned for trauma and this and that, whatever. I dealt with it and I got over it. I worked the steps. I continue to do that, continue to help other people. And that other stuff does not come up for me.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I've never found it good to postpone working the steps with somebody. Never.
Well, and I will say, okay, I'm going to find someone else who wants to work the steps. You don't want to, you need to postpone. Fine, that's your business. How about you? Are you ready to work this? You want to read the book? Great.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, so I have done other stuff too, like you're talking about. But I always thought, to me, that's always in addition to, not a replacement.
That's right.
And I even see that as part of, I'm able to do some of that stuff because I am working the steps.
Yes.
If that makes any sense. And it's so I'm glad that the Living Sober book says that many of us found that the sooner we started working the steps, the better, but it should say all of us.
Yep. Yep.
So in the rewrite, I would keep the first statement and get rid of that second one.
Yeah, well, or the other one could be, others of us felt the need to postpone this until we had been sober a little while, and then we drank and changed our minds.
Yeah, right. There you go. It could say that. Yeah. Those of us that postponed this, relapsed.
Yeah. We got married, found a wife, and got married and had kids, and got a great job, made a lot of money, got $1 million house, but drank and got the thick tongue.
Yeah, or we got sober. We postponed the steps, but we went back to school, got our degree, and became a counselor, and then we relapsed.
And then I don't know what happened. I was in the middle of everything, and Drake was waiting for me in the parking lot.
I get so sick of people talking about going back to school. Who gives a crap?
I know. Hey, good for you, you know?
I'm glad you did.
Get an education. That's amazing.
I'm
how's your sobriety doing today?
That's right. So what should we do with this one?
Well, I think we have to keep it just because the 12 steps offered as a program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. It's pretty strong.
I think you're right. So,
although they'll probably update it to state, many of us found that the sooner we started work on the 12 steps offered as a program of recovery in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, or used the plain language
big book,
a tool for reading the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those of us who were not as smart or educated or had a fifth grade education or were remote communities or in prison.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I'll guarantee you, if they rewrite it, they're going to include that plain language big book. So,
I have never heard Alcoholics Anonymous promote any piece of literature like the plain language book. I'm getting us
Isn't
like
it?
way off a track here, but which I just thought that we didn't make money off of literature. It's a service and we recoup our costs and blah, 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 whatever. And I get it. The people that love it, but I have never heard so much promotion. Have you seen the glossy
yes,
paper that comes if you order
everything
anything
you
from DSM?
order, no matter what you order, they got that flyer in there.
I mean, how much does that cost? Sure,
It's not
mention it
cheap.
on social media, mention it in the podcast, mention it on the Grapevine podcast, but like all this other stuff, I'm just like, this is crazy.
There's a picture floating around of that flyer in a trash can. Have you seen it?
Oh,
Yeah. So now, if you're listening, when we get to the literature committee, I think it's a couple episodes from now, it'll include some PLBB stuff and the Living Sober rewrite. So you got to stay
yep,
tuned.
stay
for that.
tuned.
So we're going to keep this.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep that one.
All right. Now listen, be it known. First episode of season 10, Shank and Wayne kept 2 shrapnels.
We did Living Sober Shrapnel.
We kept 2 of them. Hey, look, we appreciate y'all listening today and for coming to season 10. I think you're going to find the season pretty good as far as informing you of what's going on in AA and entertaining as well. So stay tuned and be free.
Freedom.
Thanks for listening. If you have a comment, suggestion, or just need help, you can email Shank and Wayne at freedom@alcoholicsalive.com. Remember, we're recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, nor do we get paid. Join us next week for another great episode.